and foremost. That's what we're doing all week, all day, every day.
Brad Garcia here. I'm Chris Deal.
I'm Christian Weatherspoon with Real Estate Investing Made Easy, and it's time to make it easy. Hello and welcome everybody to the VA Hiring Masterclass. I'm super excited to have you here. We don't have a lot of people on yet, but as they continue to trickle on, I'd invite you to unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and just have a conversation with me. My intention for this event is not to be talking at you. It's to be speaking with you and making this as tremendously valuable for you for the growth and scale of your real estate business as possible. I see we have Bob T on and we have JS on. I'd love to just have this conversation with you about what we're going to cover as we wait for a few others to come on. We had about 100 people register. And what I know about live events like this is usually there's a 50% show rate. And what I also know is that not everybody is, most people are like me, I would say. And that is if it starts at 8 o'clock, we're all going to get there at 8 or a little bit after. So I definitely know we'll see some people continue to trickle on. I did stream this live to YouTube, everybody. So for those of you who are on YouTube, I'm going to leave a link in the description below for you to actually register for this class if you want to interact. Where normally we would be interacting live on YouTube in the chat, we're not monitoring the chat. This is only for those people who registered, but for those of you who are viewing, I want you to have the benefit of the conversations that we have as we talk about scaling your real estate investment business, namely via hiring virtual assistants and looking at it from the perspective of we're just hiring employees and they happen to be virtual. Because I'll share a little secret with you guys. We're all virtual. That is to say that myself, my business partners, and my entire team, we're all virtual. We work from our offices that we've built at home, and you may too. We're full-time in this now, but it didn't always used to be that way. So at the end of the day, there's something to be said about when you say virtual assistant, what you really mean is just somebody who's not physically in an office with you. And that's kind of the perspective we're going to be going through and sharing. So what I'll do is I'll just share my screen for now as we wait for some other people to pop on. I'll also be down here in the corner, bottom left-hand side, so that you can see me, and we'll have the presentation here. And again, feel free, and welcome Carolina. I see that you've joined too. And feel free to just answer a couple questions. I'm curious for those of you who are already here and have the benefit of really more of a one-on-one, how long has everyone been investing in real estate? And how many of you have ever hired VAs before? And just conversations around that. So I'll tell you my journey if nobody wants to take that leap of unmuting and discussing that directly with me, because there's certainly a journey to be told. So how long have you been investing in real estate? Welcome, Tyler. I see that he's just popped on and he's currently connecting to audio. All right, Tyler, welcome. We're just going over. I see your camera on. Thank you for that. And by the way, that is a really good point. We want to make this, for those of you who are just joining us, a more interactive discussion instead of me just talking at you. So feel free to turn your camera on. And obviously, unless you're not decent, and I have a story that I'll share a little bit later about interviewing a virtual assistant where that wasn't the case. So they they probably should have had their camera off. But Tyler, welcome. We have a couple people still pouring on. You're muted, Tyler, but I actually wanted to make this more interactive than anything. So you're welcome to, obviously not everyone at once, unmute yourself, because I'm curious for everyone who's popping on here, how long have you been investing in real estate? And we're answering a couple of those questions. Tyler, I see
Hey,
you.
how's it going?
Good. Awesome, man. Happy to have you on.
Thanks.
Well, we got a lot more people piling on right now. You know, it was great. A little bit earlier, I have this really cool, speaking of virtual assistants, I have this really cool 15-minute intro that was playing before on the dot that my virtual assistant video production team put together. And it, you know, in my opinion, I think it was really great. And for those of you just popping on, you missed it. But maybe in a break, if we have one, I'll go ahead and play it. And it looks something like this, where there's a lot of cool graphics and stuff. I was just very impressed with the way they put that together. Even myself, having been in video production, they did a killer job. And that's what this is all about: hiring stellar talent for a lot less than you think. And for those of us who have never hired real estate professionals that are virtual, or any other niche, right? Because I'm talking about video production. We want to have a paradigm shift together over the next couple of days to understand that it's actually something you can take action on sooner rather than later. So it looks like we have several people popping on already. So we're going to, without further ado, kind of get started here. And I did mention, just so everybody knows, this is being recorded. This is also being streamed live on YouTube. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, that those who are on YouTube, what I'll do and my team will do, Carolina is on, she's a part of my team, definitely blessed to have her a part of this, is we'll leave a link in the description of that YouTube live so that you can register for this event to interact, because we're not monitoring the chat on YouTube. That is strictly so that you can have the benefit of learning if you choose to do so. But if you want to interact, here we are right here on the Zoom. So welcome everybody to the VA Hiring Masterclass. We have a lot to cover, but it's a lot of great stuff. Feel free to, if you don't want to unmute yourself, go ahead, and the video streaming has blurred text. Got it, JS. Thank you for letting me know that. So yeah, again, we are on the internet, so there probably will be some hangups, but hopefully we get past that, and the value is, at the end of the day, I'm confident in taking action on interviewing, finding, locating, vetting, and hiring virtual assistants to grow and scale my real estate investment business. So, all right. Welcome, everybody. So I'm curious now, whether you choose to unmute, not everybody at once, how long have you been investing in real estate, and how many of you have hired virtual assistants before? Now, I appreciate the fact that Tyler's on camera, so I'm going to call you out, and I'm just going to say the question directly to you. How long have you been investing in real estate, and have you ever hired virtual assistants before?
All right, yeah, I'll take it away. I just got into like investing in real estate for the last few months. It's something I've been interested in for years, but I was in the Marine Corps, so I just got out of the Marine Corps, wanted to get into real estate, and I've just been finding deals, definitely the hardest part. So I've been trying to find the best way to find deals. And I had like 3 VAs already. One of them was not the best. I had to teach her absolutely everything. And it actually ended up like any task I gave her, it took longer for her to do it than if I just did it, because of all the questions she asked me and then how it was messed up. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to use her. And then I've just got someone else today that
Wow.
is more like specialized. I think that might be the right way to do it. Instead of getting someone that's can do everything, get people that are specialized in like one thing, because it'll take them 4 hours to do something that it might take your general VA like 15 hours. So I don't know. I'll like to see what you guys think about that. But yeah, so I've had a few just for like marketing, a few VAs that cold called, and then that general one, and then now the one just for pulling lists.
Gotcha. Well, we're going to talk
Yeah.
about that. And I'm glad you brought some of those points up because the struggle is real, especially when you hire somebody who you put in the time, effort, energy, and honestly, the opportunity cost that's lost for financial
Mhm.
gain in real estate investing to turn your attention to hire somebody that then you have to put in this over like crazy amount of work just to bring them up to speed. Well, that's why we want to hire right. And that's what we're talking about over the next 3 days. And on the fourth day as well, for those of you who bought that VIP ticket where we're going to have a open Q&A and everything, which I'm really excited about because we're going to cover some stuff. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. We are going to be going through what we're going to cover just so that everybody is confident moving forward after the fact that and there's no mystery to where we are in this training so that you can also gauge your questions appropriately because, we do want to make this interactive. So I'm curious, you guys can type in the chat too. If you don't want to come off mute, that's totally fine. How many of you, like Tyler, have hired VAs before? How many of you have not? And what's been your focus in your real estate investing business? That is wholesaling, rehabbing, rentals, creative. Creative can mean note investing. We're investing in notes too, which is pretty cool. All right. Well, as those come in, I will address them, but let's continue. So again, it's great to have everybody on. My promise for this event is to be instructive and to teach as well as I possibly can for you guys. And what I'm going to do is observe the 80-20 rule. And that's what I've distilled this training down to. It could have been 15 full days of training, but it's only 3 with a bonus fourth. And that is, I want to focus on the 20% that's going to get the 80% of the results. And I want to also do this by challenging, not just challenging myself to live up to that commitment, but challenging you so that by at the end of our time together, you're going to have the confidence in taking action. And of course, I want to make this an actionable training for you, something that's within easy reach. So like Tyler, who mentioned that he had a VA who he had to spend a lot of time with training just to basically teach them how to do the job. And it took way longer than if he were to just have done it himself. I don't want that to be the case for anybody here because that sucks. For lack of a better word, that absolutely sucks for a whole host of reasons that I'm not going to list out right now, but I'm sure many of you, and I'd love to hear from you, have experienced. So we'll have an exciting time. And ultimately, this is so that you can work less and profit more, right? So that you can have a business that thrives without you being on the grind all the time. But in order to do that, I do need something from every single one of you in return, and that is a commitment. So let's commit to this. As Robert Kiyosaki said, true learning takes energy, passion, and a burning desire. Okay. And that is energy, right? Bringing your energy, bringing your focus, bringing your engagement, and engagement promotes energy. So you've committed to showing up already. And I'm curious, by typing in the comments, I commit, who is committed to following through on that commitment and then engaging to bring that energy and actually learning and making this a valuable use of your time? I'm going to type it in myself because, like I said, I commit. So I'm going to type I commit, and anyone else who is committed to showing up and engaging so that they can get the most return on investment of your time, which is the most valuable thing that we have. Shu, Leong, thank you. I really appreciate you. I'm glad that you're here and you also commit to stay engaged and to be interactive because this is not a talking at you. This is a learning and growing together. So I can rely on Shu. I appreciate you. And I'm curious what drove everybody to sign up for this masterclass. Just type that in the chat box as well. What was the reason why you said, yes, this is the thing that I need? or that I want to explore? VA techniques, Bob says. Awesome. Can you specify what you mean by that? Is that how to hire them, how to train them, how to find them? Because we're going to cover a lot of things, which I will share briefly.
Can you hear
So
me?
I can.
Well, all the above what you just said. And then one more thing I was going to ask you, maybe in the chat, but since you let me go off mic, do you sometimes hire VAs that already have subscriptions to things that you don't want to have to subscribe to since you're paying a VA and maybe they have the subscription like skip tracing or maybe a prop stream or some other resource that if they have it, why do you need it if you're hiring them to use it?
Right. I love that question, Bob. And I'll address that right now because that's not necessarily a very specific thing we're going to cover, which is why I want to be respectful of time so that we can have more of an open Q&A later. What I will say is the short answer, not really. If we do, it's not the reason we hire them. So we have our own subscriptions. We use our own particulars in terms of, we don't use PropStream really. We only use it for specific purposes, and that is like water leads and stuff like that. But we use a whole host of other platforms for that. Really good question. All right, still looking for other people to type I commit, by the way, in the chat box if you agree to show up, because true learning takes energy, passion, and a burning desire. And that is to grow and basically live a lifestyle by design. So I'm going to be continuing to look for those responses in the chat. Now, moving on, this is the reason why, understanding true entrepreneurialism. And, a lot of the reasons for us, thank you, Carolina, I commit. A lot of the reasons for us becoming an entrepreneur is to fulfill that why. Just know this, though, as Michael Gerber says, who I've met in person, and he looks exactly like this for some reason. He always wears the hat, and I love that because it's like a brand. But anyway, as the world's #1 small business guru, if your business requires your presence, you don't have a business, you just have a job. Does anybody resonate with that? Does anybody say, man, I feel like my business feels like more of a job? And if you're working full time and you're doing this on the side, sometimes it may feel like it is just another job that you have to go to. And depending on how long you've been doing this, it may feel like, why haven't I been able to scale? Why haven't I been able to be at a point I thought I would be further down the line? So go ahead and let me know in the comment section there. Well, you like me want more time with friends and family and less time in the office and on the grind. And obviously you would agree with Michael Gerber, right? That true entrepreneurialism really just means that you've scaled yourself out of the daily grind. And we all know that that means you have to scale a team. And that's exactly what we're going to cover today. And specifically, before we get into that, I just want to give you a quick insight on who I am so you can have some confidence in the person that's talking to you here. So I'm going to, just so you can see the whole slide here, turn my camera off really quickly. So does that make sense? Everybody go ahead and type in there if it makes sense. Because I can skip this slide and just get right into it. But for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet and interacting with, would it make sense for me to just share a quick overview about who I am so that you can have confidence in who's sharing this information with you? I'm just looking at the chat box right now to see those of you who have committed to engaging. I know Shu is going to say yes. Bob, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And for that, what I will do is share that now. Weatherspoon who? So, I go by a lot of nicknames. Spoon is one of them. Hence my last name. What qualifies me to teach this stuff? And I definitely didn't want to refer to myself in the third person. So don't worry, I won't be doing that. Well, in 2009, I started my investing journey. And that was actually part-time. I was working for a real estate investing education company when I really just had a light bulb go off. I was previous to that working as a loan modification executive assistant in 2008. We all know what happened there. People started to, get these loan mods because of the market, right? We're trying to stop either foreclosure or the need for a short sale. And what a time to be investing in real estate and starting your journey. By 2014, I began teaching and mentoring in real estate investing made easy. In real estate investing. It was 2020 that I started Real Estate Investing Made Easy. And in 2019, I partnered with Chris Deal, and then eventually Brad. Now, 2020, I went full-time in real estate investing and mentorship. Now, I have to address this because full-time 10 years later, I'm talking about scaling. I'm talking about removing yourself from the business. So why the heck did it take me, the guy who is teaching you how to scale quickly by hiring, 10 full years to go full-time in real estate investing? Well, the truth is, I'm still not full-time in real estate investing, even though I have a full-time business because it's operating without me. What I did was I worked for a real estate education company and I loved it. Remember, this is about financial flexibility and freedom and time freedom. And my desire was to pour into a real estate education company because I wanted to equip other business owners and entrepreneurs with the tools and the knowledge and the skills that they needed, that I needed, that all of us need to live a lifestyle by design. And I designed my lifestyle that way. And I loved working where I worked. But by 2020, when we all know what happened globally, I was met with the reality of I was getting paid significantly less in that role. So I started my own real estate investing education company, mentorship, as well as just a place to showcase what was working in my real estate investing business and what was the product of the scale. And that was Real Estate Investing Made Easy. And since then, I've mentored thousands. I've shared this system that I'm teaching you guys right now with hundreds, and I have dozens of success stories, and some of those I'll share with you. So ultimately, I can't do this by myself because it's all about scaling a team. And with this, between my team and I, we have over half a century of real estate investing experience and real estate experience from agents to mortgage brokers to investors. And that's our YouTube channel, Real Estate Investing Made Easy. You can feel free to follow us and to check out what we're doing. Our goal is to basically educate everybody and to share what's working in our own business. And of course, we have over a decade of real estate education experience with speakers, training, and mentors. Actually, we just got back from this last weekend, a speaking engagement at a real estate convention with Carlos Reyes. How many of you guys know Carlos Reyes? Type I do. Carlos Reyes there in the chat if you do. He was actually, and he says this, he says, I was illegal twice and now I'm a multimillionaire because of real estate. He shared his story, which was really inspiring. So Chris actually was the one who spoke, and that's him to the left right here. This is him. You can see that. And then Brad, my other partners, and some of my other team members who are virtual. Carolina's here on this call as well. And she's just to the right of Jecca St. John. So this is Carolina here with us, who is our executive assistant that we're blessed to have here with us. All right. And this is my virtual team. So everybody, I mentioned, for those of you who are just joining us, that we're all virtual. All of us are virtual. And it doesn't just mean people who are overseas. We're living in America. We have people all over the world. And one thing that I'm really happy to share with you in terms of what really makes you the employer that employees want to work with, part of this system. And I would encourage you to write this down and take notes. And if you haven't already determined you're going to take notes, I would recommend that you do that. And it has to do with what's on this slide. This is the 2022 awards dinner. Well, if I'm not in the Philippines, because this is the team that's in the Philippines, how the heck am I going to have a 2022 awards dinner at the end of the year? Well, we have other VAs in place, other team members in place virtually that help coordinate this. And we had an award ceremony for those who are crushing it. This is just our inside sales team, and that's specifically for Real Estate Investing Made Easy. So our inside sales team are those people who fulfill marketing and teaching and training other VAs for our Done With You programs that we have. So we built a team around that to equip other investors to do the things that we all need done in real estate, but don't have the time to do, and frankly, the expertise. Because I always say this, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room when it comes to any point in time where I want to learn and grow. So I need to fill the room with other experts who know better than me. And some of those people, I am very happy and blessed to report, are the team members that I've hired. So they can do certain things better than me, including video production, by the way, where I kind of got my start years ago and had experience in video production. Now, The next thing I'll share is here, our virtual team also is, we have over 50 virtual team members that we've hired so far. And this is our weekly setter training in our real estate investing business. So this is specifically relevant to those of you who have a real estate investing business, although all of these principles apply to no matter what industry you're in. This right here, they are commission only sales reps, commission only. And they're bought in. And part of this system is to teach you how to help buy those people in so that they'll commit, right? So that they'll be a part of your business. So one benefit of having a virtual team means that ultimately you can source the best team from all around the world. And this slide right here, this guy on the bottom here, his name is Brendan White. He's from Australia. And I don't know if you can see this, but he's in a robe. So what I'll do actually, everyone, is I will share my screen. So let me do that. I'm actually going to share my screen. This may be better for you guys to see it because I saw some comments that said, hey, there's a little blur. So here is the screen itself. This guy right here, Brendan, is from Australia. We have this at 11 o'clock or 12 p.m. and it was 5 a.m. where he was. So he woke up at 5 a.m. to join the call. And this lady right here, Fernanda Flores, she's from London, England. And Julie, one of our team members, is from Ireland. So I say all this to kind of broaden your view of what virtual assistants can be, and that you don't always have to pay them hourly. You can, but that they don't just have to be from the Philippines or India or Pakistan or Nigeria, or we have them from all over the world. And that is the number one benefit that I've experienced in my own business and others who have implemented what we're teaching here, is that you can source the best talent from literally all over the world. So all that to say, you can live your why by hiring a team. So what I'll share just before I jump in is what my why is. My why is, and you know, my family obviously is a big part of that, is the gospel that we all need. I'm a Christian, so I'm also an evangelist. I love to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. And my family that I serve and that I love, and I really want to pour into them and my children, my partners and their families that I love, because I treat my partners and their families like my own, as well as my employees and those that I rely on, those people that I just shared you with, which was just a snapshot of those people who are in our employ, and my friends that inspire me to do better, and vice versa, right? We all know that rising tides raise all ships. So all those reasons, right, that we've talked about before, we're going to cure that. I need a hire, I can't scale. It's really difficult. I've had these challenges pouring in more time with virtual assistants just to train them than it would have taken for me to do it myself. So today, what we're going to cover with the time that we have left in about an hour and a half is we're going to cover why you should hire a virtual assistant in the first place, the paradigm shift that you need to have, and really what's possible for you. I want to give you a picture of what's possible so that everything else we cover makes sense. So that when I recommend the rest of the way that you should hire, how to think about outsourcing, what you should outsource, how to prepare to outsource, and where to find these candidates and those special considerations, you're going to have light bulbs that go off and connect the dots. Now then, by tomorrow, we're going to cover how to pipeline rejected candidates, how to pipeline your candidates in a follow-up, and vet them. And specifically, what I mean by that is job posts that attract quality candidates. Now, when I first got started, I thought I could just post a job that said like, hey, I'm looking to hire somebody. These are the skill sets and qualifications, which all this stuff is good. And then find talent that was actually going to be a good fit potentially to interview. Well, what we found was the opposite. And I'm curious if has anybody else ever experienced that? Other than Tyler, who spoke up at the beginning, that they hired somebody that didn't really align with their expectations, where you hired somebody and you realized, wow, this person and all the resumes that I've gotten just aren't really what I was looking for. The candidate pool was less than quality. Anybody? Anybody ever experienced that? So by the way, it is possible for you to get a recording. I see that. So a prior engagement, somebody had mentioned that, and yes, you can absolutely get the recording for this. For those of you who have registered, the goal would be to send the recording out automatically. Now, I'm not a Zoom expert, I'm a real estate investing expert. So there may be some sort of a delay, right? And we all know the technology is great when it works. But for those of you who aren't actively engaging, I understand that's totally fine, but just know that you get out what you put in. And my desire and goal is to, even though we have an agenda that I'm sharing right now, is to change the flow to show up for you. So I'm here for you, for every single one of you. So I see Terrence, thank you. He said, yes, I've experienced that drawback. Awesome. Okay, so that is what we're going to cover on day 2, partly, and then how to stop that from happening. Job posts that actually prevent that, email vetting sequences that further vet, and some of that's automated, by the way, so that when people apply to your role, they automatically receive an email, hands off, that vets them further. We're going to talk about how to do that, and I'll share with you exactly how to do that. And then Calendly question sets. Now, when I say Calendly, everybody know what Calendly is? By a show of chatting and saying, yes, I know what Calendly is. Calendly, it doesn't have to be Calendly. I just use Calendly, and that's to set those appointments. Bob said, yes, thank you for that. So we're going to cover how to use an appointment scheduler to automatically and further vet candidates to make sure that you don't waste time. Because everybody, how many of you would agree, say yes or yes in the chat, that time is not money? Time is everything. You cannot get time back. You can't. You can get money back. You can trade it and all that stuff, but time is the most valuable thing that we have. So I don't want you to be on an interview with somebody who is literally a nothing burger waste of time interview because that candidate wasn't qualified. So that's what we're going to talk about. Shu, yes, in capital letters. Thank you so much for that. So that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow, and then offering interviews to candidates. There's a way to offer interviews to candidates that's going to put you in a position to be the employer that employees want to work with long-term and stick around. We're going to talk about that exactly. And then by day 3 of the VA Hiring Masterclass, we're going to talk about the 2-stage interview and the keys to it, the candidate evaluation system, and yes, it is a system using a matrix, which everybody on here is going to get, by the way, everybody, whether you bought the VIP ticket or not, which I would encourage you to do. There's still time left if you want to have what we're going to cover on day 4, which I'll share in a second. And then the Made Easy interview guide, which everyone will get for free, for just saying thank you for showing up, guys. And then role-specific interview differentials. How else to word that is this. No matter who you're hiring, right? If you're conducting an interview for a cold caller, it's going to look a little bit different than if you're conducting an interview for a video editor. But there are so many similarities in the way that you do this because it's a system that's scalable that by day 3, when we share that with you, you'll see the differences and you'll be able to take action on it. Then my lovely wife, pending her availability, because we have 2 small kids. I showed you a picture of my family there. She's going to pop on, and she's definitely more qualified for this because she is the absolute top, literally best top performer in one of the nation's largest defense contracting agencies. She is a sourcer and a recruiter, and she's going to talk about, instead of just posting jobs, how you can source talent for highly skilled positions. And we've done that, and we're going to share with you how to exactly to do that. And I've learned a lot from her. Like I said, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I can bring the talent to me, but when the talent doesn't show up, this is what you do. You're going to want to stick around for day 3 to go through that. And then we're going to talk about putting it all together and the next steps to take action. So by on day 4, we'll have our Saturday session. We're going to have an open Q&A, and then we are going to get into what some of you may be excited to see, that how to turn $400 into $50,000 a month in just 60 days. And that's like 5 deals at 10K, and how you can do that with one part-time virtual assistant. This is not a joke. We're doing this in our business day to day. I didn't have enough time to get HUD statements together, but we're doing this all the time, and we're not the only ones. Our clients are doing this. People who are a part of our Made Easy community are doing this, and I'm excited to share it so that you too can also just implement it and make it happen for you in your business. And then we're going to share something that I'm really excited about. It was a last minute thing. Creative REI systems scaling every department of your business. And when I say it was a last minute thing, it was a last minute decision to share this with you. It's not just the hiring. It's every single system and department of your business that you need to optimize to have a business that is literally on autopilot. Scaling has to do with it. Hiring people in those positions have to do with it, but we'll talk about that more in depth later. So without further ado, that's ultimately what we're going to be covering, and it's time to get started and understand this is a journey. It is not teleportation, okay? So we're going to be interacting. I'm going to be calling on you to interact and share, and we'll get through this here. I want to learn your whys, as I said, because I want to dictate the flow of this, even though there's an agenda, right? We all know it's time freedom. We all know it's all that stuff. But I want to let you know, as I promised, why you should really hire a virtual assistant, even if you have hired them before, why you should hire them using this system. So what is everybody's why? Type it in the chat. Is it family? Is it friend? I see the eMyth Revisited that Bob shared a PDF of by Michael Gerber. And that's to the benefit of everybody. So I would download that. Thank you so much for sharing that. We saw that I shared a little bit about Michael Gerber a little earlier. So let's discuss that. If anybody, we can have one person share their why, and that would be tremendously valuable for the rest of the group here together. I shared my why with you. So feel free to unmute yourself too if you want to share your why. Michael, Philip, Greg, Shu, Terrence, Jay, see you on camera there. Appreciate you being here. What are your whys? As you guys continue to share those in the chat, I'll just tell you that ultimately achieving your why is within easy reach when you hire the right team member, because they're an effect multiplier. It's not just in your time, but the opportunities that they have to work in other departments of your business. When you leverage the strength of others, have you ever heard the term many hands make light work? Well, when you do it right, that's exactly what happens. And it truly helps you create a culture when you hire right, and it creates a better, more enjoyable work environment for you. And I know many of you, and I know this for a fact, even those of you who haven't said this, we're all human, so we don't have unlimited energy. And when we show up to work, especially when we're working a full-time job and we're doing this as a side hustle, which I was doing, that it just feels like work. And we're not enjoying it after a while, especially if we're finding it challenging to scale our business. And especially if we're just getting started in real estate investing, where we want to see those checks come in, whether we're wholesaling or rehabbing. This is something that will make your work more enjoyable, and it will drive accountability, because showing up for a team to lead a team drives accountability, not just for the team, but for you, because you have families that rely on you. And I shared some of those families earlier that rely on me, and it's sobering. It's not just providing for my family. I have to show up to provide for them. And that is one way in which I care about my team and show them that I care. And that's part of this system. It's just approaching this whole hiring as the virtual assistants are cogs in a wheel. Now think of it this way. A partnership. How many of you have partners in your business and aren't solopreneurs? How many of you have partners? Just say I. Say I. Everybody in the chat, those of you who have partners. I. Bob, good to hear you have partners. Whether you do or don't, just understand that in the future you may, and I, for 10 years, didn't have a partner and brought a partner on. And when it comes to partners in your business, hiring somebody that's a partner takes a lot of consideration. There's a lot of things to consider, because it's basically like a marriage. It's like the next most important thing to your spouse, because you're with them all the time. And unfortunately, there are people who hire or who partner with the wrong people. And in the same way, hire without thinking of it like a partnership, even though you're their boss. You don't want to hire a partner, but you want to approach it that way. And that's what part of the system is really vetting them and being quick to hire. I would not be surprised to learn, Tyler mentioned earlier that he had employees in his business, virtual assistants that weren't really meeting his expectations. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that part of the reason for that was because he didn't take a very long time from the decision to find somebody and the decision to hire. And that is one thing that I want to share. And I encourage you to write this down, everybody who's taking notes. And if you're not taking notes, please start taking notes because I want this to be beneficial. Hire slow, fire what? Somebody fill in the blank. I know you know this. That's right, Bob. Fire fast. Hire slow and fire fast. But in context, hiring slow means just that. It means treating it like it's a long-term business relationship as though you were hiring a business partner. And if you look at it from that perspective, you are going to be not only the employer that employees want to work with long-term, but you're going to be the investor in your market who is scaling and who is owning more of your time rather than having your business own you. Now, Terrence said, carry the gospel to others in my city and to assist the needs of the oppressed, especially the youth being sexually exploited. I appreciate you sharing that, Terrence. Your why, it's similar to mine, of course, and I shared that earlier. That's Terrence's why. And having a business that thrives without you is a way to facilitate that. And obviously we know that, man makes his plans, the Lord orders his steps. You're going to do exactly what you're called to do in that regard. But, by way of growing a business that provides for you and your family and gives you time freedom is certainly one of those ways to do that. And that's notwithstanding what your why would be. Now, Terrence said, I won't be able to participate further on today because I am in school. I'm a bus driver for special needs children. Thank you for doing what you do. And Tyler, I forgot to tell you this. Thank you so much for your service. I didn't say this, but my parents, both of them, were in the Marine Corps. Most of my family are in the Marine Corps. My dad was a master gunnery sergeant. Living with him wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Okay. How little discipline when you get up out of the rack super early in the morning and your chores are worth it and you take joy in your chores. That was my experience. USMC here also, Bob says, thank you. See, some of the people, that's the thing. I showed up 30 minutes early and I know some of the people in the Marine Corps here showed up really early too. That's not to say that we haven't been on California time before because, gets a little bit after a while, living in San Diego, which I have lived, but I moved recently. We're on California time, which we kind of show up a little bit after the fact, which is totally fine. Not trying to call anybody out here, just saying. All right. Well, hang on to your why, everybody, because as we go through what we're going to cover, just know that what we're covering will help you achieve that why sooner. So we're going to continue. At the heart of it is being an entrepreneur and working less and all of these things, right? Why you became an entrepreneur in the first place. And furthermore, some of the common objections that I've heard, and I want to know honestly in the comments if this is some of you, why, and I promised I would share this, right? Overcoming objections for hiring virtual assistants right now and not later. And I don't want to, again, harp on this if this isn't you. And that's why I need you to type in the chat because I will move on and skip slides. I'm here for you. So I'm not going to continue to talk about this if you guys are all saying like, we don't have any of these objections. I have enough money. I have the time to train them. And I realize that there's people who can do it better than me. And I can trust people to handle the process that I might outsource. And by the way, why this little box here is because I have this little creative situation here where I have a camera supposed to go in here anyway. Right there. It's supposed to be formatted, but I didn't do that. So we have a blank space here. But anyway, if this is anybody, I want to overcome these objections for you so that you can overcome these objections to achieve your why. Hire people and know that you do have enough money right now, whether you know it or not. You do have time to train them. If you hire the right people, you have time to train them. Let me preface that. And nobody can do the role as good as I can. I understand that, right? I've been there. Know this. You don't actually need to have somebody who can do the role better than you. You need to have somebody that can do the role 70 to 80% as good as you. Remember, we're talking about 80-20. 20% that gets 80% of the results. And if you can free up right? If they're doing it 70% as good as you, and you can free up 70% of your time doing that, you'll have the oversight managing somebody. And we're going to talk about why you actually shouldn't be managing them, and you need to hire a manager first, and then that's part of the system. But in the beginning, I realized that some people will just be managing them first. But when you hire somebody that can take 30% or 70% away, and only 30% of your time is spent on that task, but it happens to be managing them, they're going to get better and better and better because you hired the right person. And then slowly they're going to be doing it as good as you, if not better, frankly, right? Consider what you're most equipped to do in your own real estate investing business and what you thrive at. Some of us are really good at implementing. Some of us are really great at numbers. Some of us hate spreadsheets and analysis. Some of us are better on the phone, closing deals. And ultimately, that's where we need to get to. Wherever we thrive, whatever the Lord has blessed us with the ability to do at our best, let's do that, right? And hire the rest. So all that to say, we can see this being possible if the money objection isn't there, if the time objection isn't there. Just understand, I mentioned on the Saturday, we'll talk more about this, but imagine what's possible turning $400 a month into $5K a month. And I'm going to tell you this because you guys are actually already doing this if you have a 9-to-5. How many of you actually already have a 9-to-5? I know that Terrence does. He mentioned that he's going to be a bus driver. He's a bus driver for special needs children. Does anybody else have a 9-to-5? You're literally already doing this. You're taking $400 a month and turning it into $5,000 a month. Did you know that? With a 9-to-5 job, not in your real estate investing business. You may ask how. Nobody did yet. But if you do ask, I'll be glad you asked because I'm about to answer that. Consider this. The average yearly salary in the United States is $60,575, the last time I checked. Okay. That's about $5K a month. Yeah. And obviously we know that's not all take home. After taxes, there's contributions. It's closer to $4,500 a month. So actually you're not getting as good of a return as you could if you hired one part-time VA, right? Turning $400 a month into $5K. Now you might ask, where am I spending the $400 a month? Well, let's talk about that. On average, Americans are spending over $200 a month on gas. It's just the data, traveling back and forth to work, especially in congested cities. And then over $200 a month eating out. And that eating out includes your Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks runs on the way to work, your meals, eating out when you're at work on your lunch breaks, right? You're going out with the team and then you're going to a restaurant. And working a 9-to-5 is not just trading this time for dollars, right? It's also spending the money to be able to trade time for dollars. And that is not scalable at all. So with one part-time VA, you can pay $5 an hour to work 4 hours a day in 60 days. This assumes that you have an average wholesale profit of $5,000 in your area, right? And that's one deal a month. Now, I haven't been getting a lot of engagement, and I know that and respect the fact that a lot of you are likely tuning in your day job or on a break or something, and I really appreciate that. So for those of you who can, type in there what your average wholesale profit is in your market and what market you're in, because I'd love to know that. Type that in. I'm going to share some of mine, by the way, but I'd love to know for you, what are your average wholesale deals? So some of mine in San Diego, our average wholesale profit last year was $35,000. And in Florida, because we invest all over the country, it is $12,000. And in Indiana, where we invest, it's $10,000, and we're investing virtually. And just know that I mentioned that when you're trading time for dollars and you're spending that $400 a month to work and get the $5,000 a month, that doesn't even account for the taxes and contributions, that $4,500 a month, it is not scalable. The only way it's scalable is if you work harder and trade ostensibly more time for dollars to get a raise and have your boss say, good job, within 2 years, and then give you a 10% raise, maybe, if that. Some people get less than that. So this is scalable, and you can actually do it today. And that is the day that you understand this system and are ready to implement it, which could be Saturday. By Saturday, or by Friday. It could be then, where you can start within 60 days. And you can set an aggressive goal. Consider this: if your average wholesale profit was $12,500, 4 deals per month, and that's what we're doing right now with a part-time VA in each market that we're in, 4 deals a month. You know how much that is? I'll tell you, but the math itself is what that's doing is turning $400 a month into $50,000 a month, because that's 12.5. So as an average. So my question to you would be, can you actually afford that, right? Because we talked about, can I actually afford $400 a month to hire a part-time VA right now? I want to dig up money under your mattress, guys. I want to help you be able to do that right now. But the real question isn't, can you afford it? The real question is, can you afford not to? Can you afford not to do that? So how do we do that? Cutting back. Most of us, like my wife and I, when we first got married and I was growing my business and trying to scale, we didn't go out to eat. We would go to Trader Joe's and buy a couple of things and have a picnic instead of going out to a restaurant, right? These are things that, by the way, pro tip, I mean, if you're dating, that's one thing that you can do. She really appreciated that, but I told her later, I'm actually really strapped right now, so I would rather just go here. She's like, oh, well, it was still nice. That was a date. I would have had no idea. I think there's a country song that says, a bottle of wine and 2 Dixie cups. Under the stars, we fell in love. If you guys don't like country, you're not alone. But I appreciate a couple country songs. That is basically, my courting of my wife. So that's what I did. Cut back, and you can do it too. If you add up all the Starbucks runs, man, on your way to work, that's going to be a lot of money, PB&J for now. What is, man, I totally blanked on his name, but what is the guy who says, for the diet, of cutting back, you got to be on ramen noodles and like beans and rice. And he's a financial advisor. He's a financial guy. He's the opposite of investing. He says, don't have credit cards, don't go into debt, pay for everything cash. I agree with some of the things that he says. That would be one of them. But of course, we're going to leverage debt to invest in real estate.
Is it Dave Ramsey?
That's the guy. That's Dave Ramsey. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's Dave Ramsey. So, and hey, he's got solid, cogent advice. And some works for people, some of that works for them. But, for us, we'll take some of it and we'll leave some of it. So again, the question is, can you afford not to do this? You have to answer that for yourself. But either way, right, you may be saying right now, all right, I'm ready to hire, or you may be saying, I've hired before and it didn't work out. And this is for Tyler, right? And those of you who have had the same experience, you may have actually hired somebody and, you didn't have a good experience. My goal isn't to convince you that you should hire, by the way, it's just to share with you what's possible. So I should say that ultimately what we're looking to accomplish together is, all of you showed up for a reason, right? And I never really got those reasons, but feel free to put them in, because again, this whole flow is going to be dictated by your interaction, even though I have an agenda and I can go through it. Why did you show up today? How can I serve you best? What are you looking for specifically to be answered? And at the same time, I can continue through this. So again, I don't have a goal to convince you of anything, but when you hire right, you'll hire once. And ultimately, I'll see the failure spots here, because seeding these failure spots, I want you to avoid these failure spots. And I encourage you to write this down. If you've outsourced to a company, a lot of times what you'll discover is that they'll misalign with your company vision. You remember when I told you one of the benefits of hiring is because you can create the company culture that you determine, and that when you show up to work, you'll enjoy your work more and it'll drive accountability. You're not doing that when you have a company doing this for you. When you have a company that has trained them in the way that they want them trained. And here's an example for more practical purposes. You hire somebody for SMS marketing and outsource it to a company that's hiring VAs to train and teach them to work in your business. How are you going to hold them accountable? One of the benefits you could say is, well, I don't have to, and that's what I appreciate about that. Right. You're spending more money doing that. And with this system, we're going to talk about hiring the manager first so that you don't have to manage those teams. And I showed you a picture of my team with all the swag, by the way. I even had an arrow pointing to it to remind me to show you that, like, we sent all this stuff to the Philippines in our virtual team, and I didn't do it. One of my managers did it, who's managing the team. I have two team members that manage them. So all that to say, if you do this in-house, and that's really what we're talking about, you have that control over the culture when you're interviewing and training everybody so that they can align with your own vision, whatever your vision is, which is another reason why we said earlier, hey, what is your why? Share your why with us. Now, by the way, for those of you on YouTube watching this, I know and I appreciate you guys, and everybody who subscribed to the channel, comment below as responses to all this. Again, it's not being monitored live. It's only for those who are on this that we're engaging. Now, the other thing is they're not experts in the field that they're in, but not experts, they're experts in the field that they're in, but they're not experts in employing, in hiring employees. And that's to say you're experts in real estate. Like I said earlier, I'm not an expert in Zoom, but we'll get this recording over to you. I'm an expert at real estate, and you're an expert at real estate investing. So you don't need to be an expert at hiring, right? Just follow these tips and tricks and this system that we're covering, and you will, and then outsource that to somebody else. So all that to say, when you hire right, you hire once, but most entrepreneurs don't, and here's why. Ultimately, it's because you lack the systems for hiring quality virtual assistants that will produce growth in your business. Now, we're going to continue this. We're going to continue with everything that we promised to share with you, where to look for candidates and all the rest. But I do want to take some time to address any questions that you have, and this could definitely dictate the flow of our time together. So feel free to unmute yourselves or type if you want to or can, and then I'll take questions right now as we kind of take a little bit of time away from the slides. Even if it's something around what you really hope to gain out of this, because I would love to hear that, something in particular that you hope to learn from our time together. Remember, what we covered in the overview is we're going to be going through everything that you need to know to hire right over these next 3 days. And that's why it's a 3-day event and not just a 2-day or a 1-day, right? It's a journey, not a teleportation. And frankly, so is business scale, right? Hire a VA to find seller finance notes. I love that. I love that. Yep, and you can definitely hire a VA to find seller finance notes. You can hire a VA to source market for everything. I mean, these are all things that you can hire them to do. I mean, I've had people do copywriting before ChatGPT. Right now we have virtual assistants that are helping us literally just do spreadsheets in other systems, like our on-market offer system, where we crush through we're not doing 100 offers in the on-market offer system a day, but some of our students are doing 100 offers in the on-market offer system a day. And we've taught them to hire VAs to do all the heavy lifting so that those 100 offers, it's all automatic, by the way, but sometimes you need to source the contact details for the agents so that you can put them in the automated system to send out the offers. And it takes them less than an hour of their own time every day to send 100 offers out. And mostly that hour is spent looking at responses to the day before and qualifying or disqualifying properties. And that results, I mean, that's the part-time VA, by the way. So imagine if you're sending out 100 offers a day and you're only spending $400 on a part-time VA to do that. That's where you can yield that $50,000 a month as an average of $12,500, 4 deals a month. That's it. That is attainable. How many people agree that that's something that is attainable? I see Tyler shaking his head. By the way, if you're not on camera, if you can be on camera, I'd invite you to be on camera.
I got a quick question. With the keeping it in-house, what do you use as like your central hub? Do you have like a Google workspace or something that everyone's in?
Yeah, so we communicate about communication or about accountability.
Like communication, everything, like files, communication, just like
Got it. Yep.
everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really good question. So we'll use a combination of 3 different things, and there's value to others, right, that we aren't currently using, and we've considered changing over to Asana. But right now we're using Slack, we're using Google Drive, we're using Dropbox, and we're using Time Doctor as an accountability, right?
Okay.
And actually part of what we're going to discuss is how to use those to get the most out of them. So that's what we're going to be covering a little bit later. Great question, though. All right. By the way, am I still sharing my screen? I am, right?
No.
No, okay. All right, yeah, I'm going to want to do that. Any other questions? Using their own resources, not requiring me to have subscriptions. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So Bob, that's good. So it sounds like your goal ultimately is to, you know, you had asked earlier, do I find people, VAs who have their own subscriptions? I'll tell you why I don't do that. It's because since it's my business and since, especially if you're skip tracing data, I want to retain that data. I want to be able to have all of that and have the access to it. And if that employee leaves, guess what goes with it? All of your historical data, all of the ability to access that stuff and manage it. And as as skip tracing is concerned, we use a company called Best Skip Tracer. I would recommend check it out. Now, if you do decide you want to use Best Skip Tracer, you should definitely use our affiliate link to sign up because you get 50% off the first month. But all that said, I can log into my Best Skip Tracer. I can give them LastPass, give them access to log in, and then I retain all the data and I retain all of that. I paid for it. Sometimes, I mean, we used to spend $25,000 a month on marketing. We've cut back significantly because we've changed our focus and shifted into 3 different methods of marketing, which, by the way, is something that we're going to talk about on Saturday. And then, you know, we have a lot going through and the subscriptions and data, not just data in and of itself. So we want to maintain that. But definitely not trying to convince you to not do that. If that's what you want to do, we're talking about hiring people so we can find that person, right? Using these methods. Anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns? As we take a quick break, because we have about an hour left, and we're going to go through just what I promised. Just what I promised. So I want to make sure that that's going to be valuable for you. Right. I see one more question. Okay. What are the best sites to hire your VAs? I love that. That's a great question because that's exactly what we're going to get into right now. Where to find stellar candidates. All right. So without further ado, we talked about the system to hire, and that's what a lot of people lack. Now we're going to get into that system because ultimately my question for you is that you? Are you the person who lacks that system? Well, we're going to share that right now. And you might be asking, what can I hire a virtual assistant to do that'll pay $400 a month to get at least one deal per month? What is the system that I need to make sure I hire the right virtual assistant to grow my business in this way? Well, we are going to talk about the 4 key roles to hire that will do 90% of putting your business on autopilot. And the icing on the cake is how you can streamline this entire process. So here's the overview of the hiring system. I always tell you if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I really believe that. And you know what I've found is when we hire right, I'm just going to skip the overview since we already kind of got into it. So I'm going to get into hiring right. And when it comes to hiring, my biggest mistake, this is Elon Musk, is weighing too much on someone's talent, their education and their resume rather than their personality. So part of hiring right is where to find them. Now the choices are endless. That is to answer Jay's question and also to just follow suit with what what our agenda item is. And some of these, the tree you'll see represented on here, you may be familiar with their logos. Upwork is one of them. Fiverr, onlinejobs.ph, Belay, and maybe a lot of things that you haven't heard of before. But yeah, the choices are endless. But what I want you to walk away from this section with is being confident in determining the best platform to find great talent, to answer that question that you had, Jay. And that's whether it's, because it could be 2 different places or 3 different places, depending. And that is short-term gigs, projects, or whether it's long-term employment or full-time employment, right? So essentially, to determine and answer that question, we need to understand a few things about our own business. We need to know what your budget is, and we need to be able to answer the question, is US based important to me? Right? Is it, and that's very important to some consumers. Are we in the business where it's very important to our potential sellers that are prospects who we hope to convert to leads and deals? Are we in a business where they believe it's very important for us to have US based talent only? You know, I can't answer that question for you. For us, we have both US based and overseas. And also, as I mentioned in the beginning, the UK, Australia, Canada, all over the place. And then you need to determine which is most important to you. Because if it's budget, you're going overseas. If it's US based, you have a bigger budget. Just know that's the reality. And I don't think that that's groundbreaking. I'm pretty sure that everybody on this call knows that empirically. So you just need to conclude US or elsewhere. And now keep in mind, there are some benefits. Again, I told you that you can hire commission-only sales reps, commission-only people in your business, and this system will help you do that. But whether they're commission-based or not, in general, these are a few things to consider and keep in mind when answering the question, where's the best place to hire a virtual assistant? Now, on the left-hand side, obviously, we have America, and on the right-hand side, I have the Indian flag and the Philippine flag, just two out of many places we hire. Considering that I mentioned consumers sometimes appreciate US-based, that's the patriotic approach, but not just for the consumers, but also for the business owner. I love this country. I love this country. Would not have this opportunity if I didn't live here. God bless America. So it's important to me, but I also value hiring elsewhere. Okay. And you may or may not, and that's okay. But just know that that's going to determine this average pay rate per hour, which is $20 to $35 an hour in the US. And then elsewhere, 3 to 15, depending on the role. And one thing that's obviously a benefit, objectively speaking, but I would say it might not always be the case, is that it's easier to communicate with people who you hire stateside. Now, I put quotes on that, air quotes, because, man, I don't know if you've ever met Boomhauer, right? You guys know King of the Hill? Am I the only one? Anyway, he is a character, right, in King of the Hill. And he talked like this, man. You know, talking about, saying like, how you doing, man? I'll tell you what, woohoo. So you can't, it's a little harder to communicate with him. So I get it. There's different areas in the United States where it might be harder to communicate with people. But that guy, Boomhauer, might be really, really good at spreadsheets and analyzing deals. And all he has to do is type. So communication, whether they have good diction, they're not always going to be on the phone. That might not even matter, right? So consider that. And then obviously, again, we have the air quotes here, often harder to communicate if you're hiring elsewhere. And, that will vary depending on their role. Again, just like in the United States, if you have somebody that you can't really understand, in the same way, if you find it hard to understand somebody else, like, you might not need to. Communication is more than just verbal. Communicating with them, right, via text is also important too, and it's something that you can do. So we have stellar talent that, all of them can communicate effectively, but communication doesn't just mean, can you communicate on the phone? Because you might not need to have those people making calls for you. Now, time zones will be similar to an extent. We know this already, right? All the way from the Pacific to Eastern. But time zones really actually can be challenging when it comes to hiring virtually and overseas. Let me just say this, guys. We're going to be covering this in a little bit more detail in the email vetting sequences. But this is why one of the questions that are standard and automated to vet candidates is very clear. We require you, whoever this candidate is, to work on US-based time zones, Pacific, Central, and Eastern. And I always ask them, because it's just a template that I created and it always goes out. You must be okay with this. Please reply specifically with, that's okay with me. I can work on those time zones. Okay. So when I say challenging, I don't mean it's challenging for you as an employer to manage and have that person in your employ. I'm talking about the challenges that it presents to find that candidate, because you do not want to work with somebody in a role that requires them to show up on your time zone You don't want to hire a person who won't, right? So that's part of the vetting. They might be the perfect candidate, but if they're not going to be in the office when they need to be, that's like hiring somebody physically and they say, well, I'm going to show up when everybody, closes the doors and at nighttime. That would be a little harder and challenging. So one more thing that I'll say about this is if you're hiring in America, you'll likely have more cultural similarities, and that is, freedom first, Declaration of Independence. We all understand cultural norms. It's not just that though. It's also when's the 4th of July, Christmas. All those are pretty globally known, but there's other types on the flip side of possible cultural unknowns that you might not know. Holidays, because you want to be able to benefit your employees and you want to be able to be the employer they want to work with. So giving them some time off, if you had no idea that this was like a really like special holiday for them, that's a cultural unknown. So you want to know those things before you go into it. And I always recommend these places for finding employees, where to look, time, etc. is one if you choose to hire people in the United States. And then there's Upwork and Fiverr. This is also applicable to Canada, the UK, and Australia. Okay. And Fiverr, of course, they're all over the world. Upwork, they're all over the world. But I find a lot of top talent in Canada and all over the United States who still are putting their resumes on Upwork. So I would highly recommend checking that out too. And it all depends, right? It all depends on those other factors we just covered, okay? Now, elsewhere, the only place that I go is those three. Onlinejobs.ph is my top of tops. Upwork and Fiverr. By the way, I do have promos and stuff that if you guys are like, yes, I want to hire here, just ask for them because I'll send you the links. I mean, I'm not sure off the top of my head which like bonuses, like I talked about Best Skip Tracer, where Best Skip Tracer is, guy's a great guy. I mean, he's one of my friends actually. JP Kilduff started it and he's like, I'm going to give everybody who signs up with your link 50% off the first month. Great. Okay. Well, same thing for that. If you guys want to take advantage of that or not, I just want you to take action regardless and have this benefit you using the system. So those are the places that I would look. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I do encourage you to, as a 5,000 foot overview, check out reime.us and download the free business scale guide. It's going to cover a couple things at a 5,000 foot overview for this. But I want to, because these are my top choices, I want to pit these against each other for you guys so that you can understand more at a micro level why, right? I don't want to just say go here, and go here. So Fiverr.com versus Upwork, when you're searching for stellar talent, just know that if you're going to look for Fiverr, on Fiverr, for example, the average dollar per hour is set by the employee, right? The employee, because it's gig work usually, but you can find people to hire them long term. We actually found somebody that we hired long term in Canada on Fiverr, right? And then on Upwork, usually it's a little bit higher typically. And it is negotiable though, which is a benefit because you're hiring them for like an in-house person rather than just a gig work. So when you need a quick thing done, logos, spreadsheet, whether you need to collocate things properly and you're sifting through data and you need to, just scrub that list really quickly, you can hire people on Fiverr. And if you need that regularly, you would look on something like Upwork if you choose to use Upwork. Now, depending on the scope of work, the cost can be higher. And I mentioned that on Fiverr, and that is actually because they will set the price. It's not usually negotiable at all. It's just what the gig is. You guys might know that already. Now, depending on the scope of work, costs are lower, of course, for the same reasons we discussed. What I love about Fiverr is that it's faster from need to done. So if you really have those quick projects and you want to get them done fast, you're basically just click, do a little description of what you need, and then they'll shoot it back over to you usually within 24 to 160 hours, something like that, a week, right? 24 to a week. And it all depends. Now it's slower from need to done mostly on Upwork because you are literally, and I would encourage you to use this whole process. And of course we said hire slow, fire fast. You are going to be hiring slow. So by the nature of using this system, you're going to find the right person, but it's going to take you longer. It doesn't have to take you a month, okay? Just to be frank, you don't have to spend a month doing this, but it depends on your availability and your time commitment. So it is slower from need to done. Now, Fiverr, it's more suited, as we mentioned, for freelance gigs, and then Upwork is more suited for part-time, full-time, but you still can find gig workers on there. This is one thing that I will tell you about Fiverr. There's a higher percentage paid by the freelancer, which is why ultimately the costs are higher, because they pay 20% no matter what. They give Fiverr 20% of the profit, right? So that's why you're paying kind of a markup. It's basically like Fiverr's the wholesaler and these guys are the retailers, and you're going to their store and you're paying a premium. Whereas on Upwork, it's a tiered basis. For those people who do over $10,000 in a month on a gig, they will pay less, right? So they can kind of charge a little bit less. But I still say that there's a better option, and I'm going to get to that. So quality versus speed varies for both of these. Again, I have to say this because it depends on what system you're following to vet, right, these people, and then how you're qualifying them as proper candidates, how you're evaluating them, how you interview them, how they show up, how you show up, and of course, we're going to be getting to all of that. And Jay, I hope this is valuable for you. I know you specifically asked that question. I'm hoping that many of you had this same question, right? So just let
Yes,
me know.
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So 9 times out of 10, I'm going to choose onlinejobs.ph, and I'll tell you why. Here in front of us, obviously, I have the slide up. The average dollar per hour is $3 to $10 an hour. Here's the reason why. Not only is it an exchange rate situation, because Upwork, they're from all over the globe, right? So it varies. But onlinejobs.ph doesn't take a cut. Doesn't take a cut of anything. They're not an intermediary. They're not a third party, ostensibly, when it comes to paying those employees. And they have a payment system that you can use for free, well, as long as you have a paid subscription, which is only like $60 a month. But it's a lot cheaper, saving you a lot more money than if you were to go on Upwork and pay those percentages and fees. So you can process payments with them too. Now I mentioned I use Time Doctor, but notwithstanding that, that is to say there is no middleman. All of the money goes to them, dollar per hour. So you have the negotiating power. You are able to negotiate. And I love it. I love that about onlinejobs.ph. And it's suited for building relationships. And if you've caught on already, I'm sure all of you have, it's very important to build relationships. I had mentioned to treat this like you're, finding a business partner. And I mean that. Finding a business partner it's work if you do it right, and it's worth it if you do it right. And in the same way, when you find somebody that's a killer employee that is an absolute rock star, it's going to take your business to the next level, just like a partner would, except you're not splitting profits with them unless you choose to do that, which certainly I'm not going to dictate how you pay them. But that's the employee management system made easy, which is next. Like after this one, you guys will get a link to the next 3-day, 4-day event that is about managing employees and taking that to the next level. We'll talk about that then. All right, so culturally, they're hardworking. Superior English is common, and it's suited for building relationships, as I mentioned. Now, when I say superior English is common, that's because from grade school in the Philippines, they're taught English. That's like they're taught Tagalog and they're taught English. So from a very young age, they're taught that, and it's easier for them to speak English, of course. Now, of course, on Upwork, it varies, right? So we wouldn't know. Now, that is just to say, oh, by the way, Spanish is also very common there too. So for those of us who hablamos español todos los días de la semana en trabajo, then we now can find stellar talent who can speak Spanish as well. Now, living in San Diego for the last 20 plus years before moving to Arizona, we had a lot of interactions with sellers who were Spanish speakers and only Spanish speakers. So depending on where you're investing, not just withstanding where you live, right? That might be important to you. So hardworking varies. I've had experiences, guys, where I've hired talent that just wasn't talent. Okay. So I put this system together and started implementing it to avoid that. And that's why we're here. So my recommendation, as I mentioned, 9 times out of 10 is just to go with onlinejobs.ph for all the reasons that I covered and so many more. Okay. Now, I want to make sure that you guys write this down as action items. And, for those of you who are on YouTube, this might be a little bit of a link in the description. It might be easier. But for those of you here, I can send you the link in the chat if you choose to sign up here. Create an account for onlinejobs.ph. You can do all 3, right? Upwork.com, Fiverr, and Time, etc. if it's important to you. If you don't already have an account, right? We're talking about taking action. Whether you use the link I'm about to put in the description or not, you can just type in onlinejobs.ph, go there and sign up. Okay. But I will put a link in there for those of you who choose to use it. So just a second. So that's your homework for this particular section. Before I get to the next section, I invite you to ask questions if you have any before we jump into the next part of this. So feel free to unmute yourselves, type in the comment or the box there, and let me know if there's anything you have a question about. And let me know, is this valuable for you? Is this valuable stuff for you guys so far? I will take you're still here as a yes, it is, because my job isn't to bore you, and I know you didn't show up to get bored and not get value. So good stuff, Bob. Thank you for that. So just know that as much as I continue to say, hey, type here, I respect the fact that many of you cannot, because I am very confident that you would if you could. All right, I want to check to see how we're doing here on YouTube. I got a couple people who have actually commented. Good morning, big brother in life. Got it. I really appreciate your interactions there on YouTube as well. I did put the link to register for this training. It's 3 days and a 4th day on Saturday, so you can do that. Any other questions, comments, concerns? By the way, did you notice the camera changed? That's because this one went out, and I don't know why. But anyway, you get a side view. It's a change of perspective, which is exactly what we're going to cover now. A change of perspective in the approach of hiring so that we can hire right. All right. So let's move on then. Feel free to bring up your questions, everybody. I am very happy to answer them as we go. I promised you that I would share with you some critical considerations that you need to be the employer that employees want to work with and stick with long term. And I'm going to do that right now. Okay. So critical considerations. And by the way, this is part of our VA hiring system made easy. And this is ostensibly lesson 3 of the first chapter. I really believe this, whether you like Starbucks or not. I mean, I'm drinking Folgers coffee. Okay, by the way, and it's working just the same. But I do appreciate Starbucks. I also appreciate Howard Schultz's quote here. Hiring people is an art, not a science. Resumes can't tell you whether someone will fit into a company's culture. And how many of you remember earlier I said it's about creating a culture that you want to create in your own business. And I got to be honest with you guys, and I don't mean to say this to be negative, but some of you who have had the experience, some of you, not all of you, of the VAs ghosting you, the reason is because you didn't have the systems in place to create a culture. Because like you, like me, right, we all want to be a part of a culture in our work environment, whether it's a 9 to 5 or whether it's a business that we've created. Of course, we're all entrepreneurs that has a culture that we enjoy showing up to work on a daily basis. Right? We want to enjoy where we work. We want to enjoy the people that we work with, right? So why should I care about the critical considerations? Well, obviously, we've talked about that just now, but remember the goal is employee retention. We want them to stick around, right? So when it comes to this, I also promised that I would share the 4 key roles that you should consider hiring to expedite the business growth and scale in your real estate investing company. And these are the 4. I said hiring the actual manager first is a critical consideration from the beginning. And this is the executive assistant's role in the beginning. And my executive assistant right now is on this call. Her name is Carolina Beveridge. She could run the ship, and she is very good at what she does. And it's not because I taught her anything. It's because, sourcing stellar talent. Well, her situation was actually pretty unique. She came through a referral from my church, actually. But, in terms of sourcing stellar talent, you want to be able to not be the person that is going to tie yourself to being the manager. You can't, because that's not scalable. Again, this is about scalability and having a lifestyle by design. So my recommendation for you would be to hire the 4 key positions: the executive assistant, the phone sales rep, the SMS sales rep, and the lead manager. Everybody in the real estate investing business, right? We're talking about hiring a phone sales rep for cold calling. And where's your cell phone right now? Is it within 2 feet of you or in your pocket, or are you tuning in on it, right? SMS sales. So text message marketing is huge. We have a lot of training on our YouTube channel about text message marketing for years. And we're going to continue to roll more of that out. I'm actually excited about that. And I say that, how is this relevant to hiring and training? Because every single one of these roles that we're recommending you hire for, so it's easier for you to manage, we already have the training on our YouTube channel for free, so that they can actually crush the role. Because that's what we did for our own real estate investing business. We said, hey, this information, the systems, the processes that we use in our own business to not just for hiring and training, but for actually doing business, it's going to benefit other people. But it's also something that we don't want to continue to do time in memoriam, over and over again, holding ourselves to a schedule within our business as though we are the employees of our business rather than the owners of the business, to achieve true entrepreneurialism, like our friend Michael Gerber said. And by the way, if you hadn't yet gone back, I believe it was Bob who sent a E-Myth Revisited. That might be a whole PDF copy of the book, which is awesome. So we want to be able to put ourselves in a position where we're not managing people continually, because that's not scalable. We're not trying to hire ourselves into another position. But of course, as the E-Myth will tell you, yes, you're going to be a manager. You're going from the technician to the manager to the entrepreneur. But know that when we hire these people, we want them to be trained and equipped. So all of the training for being a cold caller, we put our employees through, is on our YouTube channel. And it's there for you guys too. And all the training that we put our text message marketers through is also there, and lead management. So these are the 4 key roles. Now we're talking about critical considerations for hiring virtual assistants. Clearly, this is one of them. Critical consideration of who to hire. And we've talked about where to hire. Now it's really also important to focus on what works. Now, why do I have onlinejobs.ph here? Because that's where I recommend you hire from. And there's a couple of critical considerations that you need to take into account when you are going to put yourself in the position to be the employer that employees want to stick with long term. And that is going to abundantly and overwhelmingly bless you, bless your business, and bless the people that work with you if you take note of these things. There's something in the Philippines called PhilHealth. There's something called SSS, the 13th month. And of course, I mentioned you want to know the holidays. I mentioned that earlier, that it was important, right? And then the types of PTO. And why is this all critical to know? Well, I think you guys by now know why it's critical, right? It's that so you can be the employer that people stick around with, right? But that want to grow with long term, because people make hiring decisions, or at least decisions to join companies, based off of, if all things are equal, who's going to give me the benefits? You can still benefit people overseas, which actually it's even easier. And I'll show you how. All right. This is for you guys to do your own research. I don't want to sit there and bore you with a bunch of statistics and numbers and charts and graphs. That's not what we're here for. Remember, 80-20. So I'm exposing you to the 20% that will get the 80% of the results for you. Go to philhealth.gov.ph when you're ready to make a hiring decision, before you're ready to post your job ad, even to understand if you're the person who can offer this. It's not required, but you certainly can. And that is to say that you can offer PhilHealth. And what it is basically just the version of like Medicare or Medi-Cal or something like that, right? That you can offer, and it's in a monetary sense. You just pay them and they pay into it, and they actually have to contribute to it, which there's a lot of benefits to it. And SSS is the same thing. So it's like Social Security, right? And go to sss.gov.ph for more information about that. But what's really important to consider, even if you don't do those two things, is the 13th month. So let's talk about that. What the heck is the 13th month, Christian? Well, let me tell you what it's not. It is not a Christmas bonus, okay? It's not for Old St. Nicholas. It is just one extra pay for the year, for a month of pay that the Philippines and the employees in the Philippines are obliged to pay, right? And that is just cultural. That's when I said earlier that you want to observe what cultural differences there are, and just consider that to be just a standard for your business. So, like I said, it's not required by law, and culturally it's accepted and it's expected. So remember those two things. It's not just accepted as a cultural norm, but it's expected. Now, I will say that I know for a lot of Filipinos, when I'm hiring them, they are actually shocked to learn that I pay PhilHealth, SSS, and the 13th month, and I give certain types of leave and paid holidays. But again, that's why I have employees who have been around for years overseas. And understand, it is not that expensive. It is not that expensive, especially when we're in the niche we're in. Guys, I know I didn't hear from you about what your average wholesale profit is in your market, but if I had, this would be the time for me to scroll back through the comments and said, that person said $25,000 is an average wholesale fee. That person said $12,000. Well, you can hire them and pay all the benefits and give them all of these times off for a whole heck of a lot less. And that is pouring into your employees, and that is what helps them stick around. So again, it's cultural, it's not required, but I definitely recommend it. Now, that's the overview. That's why the 13th month and when it should be paid. Here's the important piece. When it should be paid is about on the 4th, no later than the 4th of December. So if you're going to hire, pay it, be expected to pay it. Now, understand that if they're only, say it's November, okay? And you hire somebody November 1st for easy math. And then December 4th rolls around. I guess the question is, do I pay the 13th month? And how much do I pay them? That would be for how many months that they were there, right? And then divide it. If they're for a full year, if they're there for 12 calendar months, then you're going to pay them an average of their 12 calendar months, right? As an extra month bonus. You're still paying them for December, okay? But on the 4th of December, you pay them the 13th month. So for the example of November, you'll pay them an average of the time that they've worked over 12 months. So that means that they're literally going to get 1/12 of a month's pay as an extra bonus on that 4th, right? And they will be fine with that. They will very much appreciate it. And that is not a lot, especially if you hire them in November. You say you pay the 13th month, like that's going to be even easier, especially if you're just getting started and you're like, oh, my budget's kind of limited, you know? I was looking for that $400 a month. Well, guess what? You can pay 1/12 of that as a bonus, right? And the goal here too is you're hiring people for revenue generating activities. I don't know if I realized, like if I had said that already, but we're not trying to hire people right out of the gate that are just going to help, which you certainly can, by the way. But those 4 key roles are revenue generating activities, literally qualifying or disqualifying qualifying prospects to see if they're leads, right? So you have an opportunity and an at bat to make money and close a deal. So this is something that is a revenue generating activity. Now, other special considerations, don't let them work on a holiday if you can absolutely help it. It's just so important to company culture. You know, they are very family oriented. And by they, I mean Filipino workers. And frankly, so are we, right? And so am I. Like I shared my why. It was my family and my business partners' families and all of that. So, you know, we want to be able to allow them to have time off if you can help it, and, you know, have a mutual agreement. If they are going to work, pay them time and a half, right? Let that be another bonus. So holidays and PTO, speaking of time and a half, things to consider that are really important for you to determine whether or not you want to include this in your business when hiring Filipino VAs, right? Oh, I see some more engagement, by the way. Okay, good stuff. All right. important holidays. I'm not going to go through them, but it'll surprise you. There are a lot of different holidays that I would never have known if I hadn't gone to the link that's in the shared screen, which I hope I'm still sharing. I'm sure I am. That's investortools.us/Philippine-holidays, capitalization in the hyphen matters. So that will give you a list of all the Philippine holidays so that you can, and it'll show you two different types, right? Ones that are very common and ones that are less common. So you can make your decision as to which ones you would pay for and give them paid leave for, or even just time off. By the way, you do not have to give them paid time off for holidays, but determining that you will give them the time off is also a benefit, which will put you in a position to be the employer that employees want to stick with long term. And then, of course, sick leave, vacation leave, service incentive. Now, you guys know what sick leave and vacation leave is, obviously, but service incentive leave is if you didn't have the time that was available to take off. So if they had PTO, but they never took it off, you can either give them that time off right now and say, get out of here, or you can give them the cash up front, like for whatever the amount is. Maternity and paternity leave are different. Now, I have all the specifics, guys, of this, but I don't really want to bore you with this. For example, paternal leave is 7 days, right? The maternity leave, if they're paying into PhilHealth and SSS, they get that paid already. You don't have to pay it. So just know that that's one of the reasons why I pay, especially for my female employees. I'm paying the PhilHealth and SSS anyway, but that's another reason why I pay it, so that if they have to take time off, maternity leave, then I don't have to worry about coming out of pocket and paying them. I'll know, because I care about my employees, that they're actually taken care of, that the government is going to help subsidize their paycheck from me during their time off. So that's good. And rehabilitation leave is probably pretty self-explanatory. If they suffered an injury, it's going to depend on the terms of the doctor. So you can choose to put this type of system in place for you, have this in order, and this is nothing short of what we do in the United States. It just costs a whole heck of a lot more, a whole lot more. Like, break the bank to hire somebody. It's like, what is it? 50% of what you're spending, right? For somebody's salary is what you're spending. In addition to that, for if you were to include all of this stuff on just one employee, it's crazy. It's crazy. So ultimately, clients do not come first. It's your employees who come first. And if you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients. And that's a quote from Richard Branson. I think everybody probably already knows Richard Branson. As we round the turn on that, we're going to talk about a few other things we may have time for. I do also want to be able to take questions, so I'd love to open the floor up to that before we jump into this. We might do this tomorrow, and there may also be some slides that I don't need to technically share. We've talked about why you should hire virtual assistants, common objections to hiring virtual assistants. We've given you an example of what hiring just one virtual assistant can do. That is imagining turning $400 into $5K a month in 60 days or less. And that's replacing your day job. And then you don't have to make that commute. You're cutting back, right? How to do that and scale further. We talked about the biggest problem when hiring virtual assistants and what you should outsource first. We talked about those 4 key roles, remember, and how to prepare for that. Well, we can dive a little bit more into exactly how to prepare for that next. But we did talk about those where to find candidates, the top quality candidates and stuff. So before we move on with the time that we have left, which, by the way, ends at about 10 o'clock, so we have 20 minutes left, and we're going to start bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. I just want all of you to know, and this is the last time I'm going to mention the Saturday thing. If you didn't buy the VIP ticket, I'd recommend you do that. If you just plumb forgot, I've been there, right? So that we can continue to dive in deep and expose some other great things that will take your business to the next level. So if we have time for Q&A, I want to get into that at the end, but I want to make sure that everybody's okay with that. So go ahead, and if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask it. Right, and I'll just leave this kind of a moment of silence out of respect for your questions, a moment of silence. I know that Bob said, when I asked, is this good stuff? Like, is he getting value out of it? He said, yes. I'd love to know from all of you, like, hey, thumbs up, good stuff, yes, thank you, stuff like that, whatever, so that I know. Reading also helps me drink water. Guess I'm not talking. All right. What is the detailed role of the manager? Yeah, Jay, I really appreciate you asking that question. The lead manager, I'm assuming, is what you're talking about, right? Because we talked about the lead manager. That is exactly what we're going to get into later on in the training tomorrow. So show up because we're going to talk about, I think that's tomorrow. It might be day 3. Let me check my schedule. But again, I will be as flexible as possible with all of this stuff. So I can change the schedule. It's up to you guys and your interactions. The insider tips on VA hiring and culture awareness are great. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. Yeah. You know, I mean, when I first hired somebody from the Philippines, I had no idea what, like, they took a day off. They're like, can I have this day off? Can I have this day off? Can I have this day off? And I'm like, what are these holidays? Like, I have no idea what they are. I found myself with egg on my face. So, you know, we can avoid that just by kind of knowing what those things are. Yeah, tomorrow we're going to be talking about how to properly pipeline those candidates and offering candidates interviews. And at a certain point, we are going to be going over exactly the answer to that question, Jay, just so you know. So I do want to save that so that we have the benefit of everybody in depth. But what I will do is I'll just give you kind of a surface level. I'll do the detailed later. For the lead manager, the long and short of it is we use the setter closer model. And what we do is we have picture and imagine there's 4 different people, okay? The first person is an SMS sales rep or a phone sales rep. So they have qualified a prospect and they are confident that that prospect has now become a lead. Once they do that, they send it over to that lead manager. That lead manager's responsibility is to recount the conversation that was had via whatever, the notes from the phone sales rep or the message and notes from the text message marketer. And then they will make that call at the appointed time that the original text marketer or phone sales rep set for them. So they'll call them up at whatever the appointed time is, and they'll continue to follow up. And by the way, a quick tip, if you didn't know this already, if you don't call twice, you didn't call at all. Okay, so always call twice. And I personally like to call 3 times. I will annoy them like crazy. And when they pick up the phone, like, and I've gotten this before, and they're like, hey, you called me 3 times, and like, I'm just not available right now. Like, that's why I didn't answer. I'll say, oh man, I love the fact that, you know, you answered. I appreciate that. I call you 3 times, man, because I know sometimes I'm in bad service areas too, and I don't actually get the call. But let's get this scheduled for a later time. That's it. And if they're mad at you because you recognize that this is the biggest asset they'll likely ever have, and you want to be expedient about providing a solution to them and actually care about them as a person and getting them to the finish line so you can make a win-win-win, then okay, whatever. Bye, Felicia. What are you going to do? You're doing your best. Call them, right? Twice. So that's what the lead manager does. We'll call them twice. I do not ask them to call 3 times. But then they'll call them and then they'll just confirm the information. And then they will make sure that they're a qualified lead. And they will ask those leading questions, kind of those poking questions. Like, hey, okay, well, you know, my colleague told me that you are looking to sell your property. It sounds like you're moving. Like, tell me more about that. Where are you moving to? Oh, great. Oh, you got another job. Hey, congratulations on that. Are you excited to move to that area? Yeah. The weather sucks there. Yeah, whatever. You know, I mean, but it's great in the summertime. Who knows? That's what their role is, to build a little bit of rapport, and then they can pass them to either the setter or the closer. So we use the setter closer model, as I mentioned. So those are the first one is the one who was prospecting. The second one is the lead manager. The third one is the setter. And the fourth one is the closer. So I mentioned there are 4 roles. So that's their little, that's their order of operations, the lead manager. Now, I said they could send them to either one, right? So when you're hiring for somebody, you know, you let them have that flexibility if they feel like it's a killer deal and like that person is ready for an offer right away. You could send them to the closer right away, right? So what we do is we'll then send them to our underwriter team, and we have a dispo team, and we have a whole team built out, right? And that's why we're talking about this, building a team. But all that to say is that is not detailed, by the way. So I'll give you the job description, the details of duties, and all that stuff, and we'll cover that during this training later. But that is an answer to your question, Jay. I hope that it made a lot of sense. Anybody else? I can tell some dad jokes too, guys, just so you know. I got a ton of them. My business partner even has a little thing that says like dad jokes, and it's this like it's just this metal container, and he opens them up for moments like this. Consider it an intermission. All right, yeah. Well, as y'all are formulating the questions, we'll go ahead and take Tyler's question because I saw him come up.
Okay. Yeah. With the sales reps, do they ever talk about price, or it gets passed to the lead manager, and then the lead manager, once they qualify and say it's definitely a lead, then it gets passed to underwriting, and then like your acquisition specialist goes, and that's the first person that mentions price? Or how do you guys do it?
So we always talk about price in different ways depending on the feedback, the response, the expectations, and who is on the phone with them. So I'm not going to say no, they don't ever talk about price, but they won't give an offer.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like you guys giving a price versus
asking
them if they have an asking price.
Yeah, we always love saying, with our lead managers, it's totally fine to say something like this without coming back and saying like, so, I was just curious, what are your expectations of value for the property? And then they'll tell us, and they'll say, $300,000 or something. And they'll say, interesting, how'd you arrive at that?
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll say, oh, my neighbor's house sold for blankety blank, it's in similar condition and blah, 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 blah. And like, got it. Okay. Well, I'm curious, if we were to come back, I take this to my team and just hypothetically come back with an offer of 285. Would you just say, don't call me back? Oh, that might be feasible for you. Okay, well, now you know it's 285.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then they can add those notes and send that over to the closer. So, or to the setter. So yeah, that's how we do it. And we also, I don't know how many of you have seen the YouTube channel, but I'll tell you, we have a lot of setter closer training. We have a lot of, for every single one of these roles. And I would encourage you to check it out, when you have an opportunity to do so. So everybody else on here, I got Greg P, Bob, JS, Philip, Jose, still got Carolina, Michael, Lionel, Ashley, Jay. Any questions before we move on and then we get to the last? Well, we got 13 minutes left. So, I'd be happy to stick on as long as, you guys are getting value from what we're sharing here. All right. Well, as if you guys have any questions, put them in there. But I'll tell you, the day 2, just to prep for that, remember what I had mentioned was that you can expect we're going to talk about those email vetting sequences, how to properly pipeline candidates, how to vet them appropriately, and we're going to talk about offering interviews and how to tell who we should offer an interview for. We're going to do it in consistent with the 4 key roles that I mentioned. There's also a 5th key role, and I'm going to share that, and that is for on-market offers. And we talked about that earlier, where we have people making 100 offers a day on market with a part-time virtual assistant. They're spending $400 a month on. So we're going to take all that and cover it tomorrow, including our candidate evaluation matrix. What I'll do here, everyone, is because we have time left, and I will take questions, I will keep this open. And for those of you on YouTube, I will turn my attention to YouTube as well and start answering and engaging with you if you are on YouTube as well. But we will basically say that's a wrap for today, and we'll get on early, bright and early tomorrow. Know that I will be on earlier than 8 o'clock. So Even then, we'll have some time to interface and talk about anything that makes sense to help you get your business to the next level. So I'm going to uh, be right back after these messages. And yes, I mean after these messages. So I'm going to play it because, we have my little thing here. And then what we'll do is we will be on for questions. And as I see them come up, I will answer them. Okay. So if y'all have to bounce out, I completely understand. I want to say, though, first and foremost, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I don't know why everybody showed up. I want to know. So by tomorrow, I'm going to ask the same question, and I want to be able to bring you value as we continue to cover the whole process from start to finish of hiring virtual assistants to benefit the growth and scale of your business, ultimately to fulfill your why. Okay. So again, I'll be here, type questions in. I'm actually going to step out for just a minute because I'm going to get some more coffee. I don't usually get up this early, but I did for you guys. So I'll be right back physically, but type your questions and know that when I come back here in a couple minutes, I'll be here taking more questions for at least the next 10 minutes. It could be 20 or 30. If you guys want it, I'm here. So I'll be right back.
Moments of clarity.
I was like, man, you're really smart. Yeah, no, I just have moments of clarity. So whether you're brand new to real estate or like many of our done-for-you marketing clients, you've been doing this for years, you'll be armed with the how-to to close more deals and scale your business right now, not later, because the name of the game is speed to lead. Rapid fire, as quickly as you can tap the mouse button. So the more reps you get in, the more confidence you'll have, and that confidence will help you close more deals. There's a lot of different creative strategies that you can do to really help you get a leg up over your competition when you're out there making offers and lock up better deals. If you make your team members and your employees feel more like than anybody else, by definition, they will make the customers and the clients and the sellers and the people that you're working with and you're trying to help solve their problems, they will make them feel like they are the most important people in the world. Good to meet you in per Zoom.
You were waiting to make that joke.
I'm working on my dad jokes. My dad shirt, the roast beef, the cow sitting in the sun, and, working on dad jokes.
Chris closes your deals.
Word, and I'm an MC. C in the sea with the little fishies. So it's time to make it easy.
We are going through this series so that you can see exactly what we're doing to get deals, so that you can emulate that and get deals for yourself. You got to manage your own expectations for success. It's not always easy. It's not always going to be quick. Just stay in it, buddy. You're going to get there. Nobody is going to be pushing you. You don't have a manager. You are the boss. So you have to know that you're going to have to take initiative. You guys want to start getting deals? What are you waiting for?
So let's just start with the basics.
If you're looking to improve your lead management, let's connect.
We are going through the wholesaling case study so that you can see exactly what we're doing to get deals.
Real estate investing is not a get-rich-quick scheme.
It's definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme. It can be just a get-rich.
Yes.
Not a quick, not a scheme. There are telltale signs of a property that might be in distress.
Telltale signs or telltale?
So there are telltale signs when the grass is so tall. It tells you that there might be something going on when every other property in the neighborhood is in great shape.
You know what it's called?
What's that?
That's called a pro tip.
When it comes to what marketing you should deploy, it usually is dependent on two factors: time versus money. Nationally, investors are working with us to fulfill their marketing. So, nationally, like it's the difference between nuclear and nuclear. I know which one's correct. So if you don't have a lot of this, we're also going to share with you how you can benefit them so that these relationships can truly add value to everybody involved. Real estate, as far as markets are concerned, it's all local. It's all local.
100%.
All right, let's
And bam, I'm back. You guys hear me okay? Okay, yes you can. All right. I know that because I have a monitor up here, and his name is Monitor. Right here in this. See that? That's me. All right. So, hey, anybody who has questions, I would absolutely love to address them. Frankly, even if it's stuff that is not necessarily related to, the VA hiring, or maybe even considerations for what other roles to hire for beyond those 4 specific roles. Because the reality is, there's not just those 4 roles. You can hire for a multitude of reasons, right? A multitude of roles to scale and grow your real estate business for sure, and beyond, not just the real estate business too. So happy to and excited for taking any additional questions that we have. And we got a couple people on YouTube watching it too. So by the way, what's the link? I will send that link right now. Big brother, I hope you're still watching. It was 9:39 a.m. So not too long ago. I'll send that right now. Good question. Sending it now. By the way, did you guys like that little intro video? I didn't play it all the way through on a second time. But that's actually what one of my virtual assistants put together. He's awesome. His name is Jay. Actually, we've got a whole team for the video production side. And I'm super grateful for him and for the rest of the team who are crunching and crushing videos consistently. So here we go. Interesting. All right, I'm gonna ask Patrick and get that link for you. Are there some questions that I'm not actually seeing? Feel free to come off mute too if you have a question. Just so you all know, sticking around for those of you who might just be tuning in on YouTube, we're sticking around at the end of the VA Hiring Masterclass, day 1 of 4, the first 3. That is the end, taking questions about it. So feel free to, even on YouTube, just ask questions that you might have about it. See the replay on YouTube for everybody who wanted to see the replay. It was streamed live. Go to youtube.com/real estate investing made easy. And then you can go to the live replays, and then you'll see this on there as well. I just feel like that makes it easier so that not being an expert at Zoom and setting up these webinars and stuff, it's going automatically to you. If it fails to send you the replay automatically, you can just pop on there and do it. The answer, Bob, is yes, that onlinejobs.ph sources only from the Philippines. Yes. And something to that, actually, that I didn't mention yet. It is, I believe it's $65 a month. Here's the thing. I also mentioned that I don't use their platform to process payments or anything like that. John Jonas himself, who founded onlinejobs.ph, said, hey, when you have a need to hire, start a month subscription and then cancel it. After you hire the person you're looking for, cancel it. Frankly, that's what we do too. So sometimes we forget to cancel it and it bleeds over to the next month, but or rather pause your subscription than cancel it. You still have it. You don't lose everything, which is great. Because then, if you did lose everything, then you wouldn't want to do that. But John Jonas himself says, yeah, that's the way to do it. Make it happen. So yeah, I found that it's better than Upwork, Odesk, hirefreelancer.com. I mean, the list of that tree graphic that I shared in the slide presentation there, it's endless. And that is after four years or so of really trying to find the best people to source from. And the best people that made financial sense for me was in the Philippines and using onlinejobs.ph. So, and then plugging them into this system, of course. Good question. All right. Okay. Also, I'm going to be, so I just got a message from the team that said we're going to be sending this replay directly to your email as well, just so you know. And where did you source all those other VAs in the Zoom and Screenshot London, etc.? Good question. Yeah, it's a great question. So from those other sites, some of them, and then the other ones from from literally sourcing via Facebook and online job ads and posts. So there's a lot more. This is an onion, okay? The whole hiring system's an onion. Everything foundationally, the principles that are applied apply to every single space. You can hire from basically anywhere, but if you use these principles that we're going to continue to dive a lot deeper into tomorrow and the next day, which are going to be like really action packed. This is the foundation we covered today so that you understand the key considerations, even in another culture, right? For commission only as well, that you want to implement. So we've gone through, and sourcing is the day 3, what I was talking about. That's kind of more the sourcing side, where a lot of people that we found was through the sourcing and inviting people to an opportunity to make a lot of money. Commission only sales reps. We have commission only sales reps in our real estate investing business, commission only sales reps in real estate investing made easy. And we have paid in both as well. So sales reps, that is, as well as other employees, obviously. So good question. Yeah. Where specifically? Facebook groups. I mean, Craigslist, marketplaces on Facebook as well, not just the Facebook groups. We've gone to LinkedIn. We've gone to what's the name of that? What is it? Indeed.com. Those ones. So a lot of different stuff. We've also we do leverage AI to help with that process. And, we can share the inside scoop as far as how to leverage AI on Saturday. If you guys want to talk about that, I'd be happy to. That's a little bit of a departure from the virtual assistants. That's more of like, you can do this without the AI. It'll take a little bit more time, and that's fine if you have more time, or if you have the patience to wait. Say you have a part-time job, you can still do that. We did it successfully without AI, but some AI really is, you throw a little AI in your life and it helps automate the process. We have a text message marketer named Mia, who is an AI, and she is working 24/7, 365 for text message marketing. We also have ISAs that we pay to text message market. Why might be a really good question. Why wouldn't we just replace everybody with AI? Good question. Answer coming tomorrow or on day 3. Time for day 2 is Pacific. It's 8 a.m. for me. So I believe that's 11 Eastern in the US. So yeah, we'll be here at it again, bright and early. Again, I will be on here before that time. I'll play the cool little thing here, the same thing that's playing right now in the background, just as a countdown so everybody knows what to expect. And it is, yes, same Zoom link to register for each day. So we'll be on here. I just want to confirm that, triple check that, so that you can absolutely be here on time. Let's see. I'd hate to say yes. So let me check that out right now. Pretty confident I set it up that way. Yeah, same Zoom link. So you would just register for that. You did already because you're here. So, yep. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I see Ashley on here. Ashley, I sent a message to you asking if you can send over the VIP ticket link, because I went to vahiringmasterclass.com and it was not working. So, and I know it's after the event, so people registered before the event, but if that's not working, we want to get it up and running so I can fulfill on my promise to say that for those people, a couple on Facebook asked this, some on YouTube, that they wanted that link. So I wanted to send that to them.
Okay, okay, Mike. Chris.
Appreciate you.
Okay.
All right, well, we're coming down to the wire here at 10:05. Again, I would be very delighted to continue to answer questions, but if there's no other questions that anyone has for me or no other comments to engage with, just know that it's been a pleasure for day one, and what a start to it. I appreciate all of you for showing up. I also appreciate those of you who are engaging, and I'm going to ask the same commitment for tomorrow. It's going to be a lot shorter, though. We're not going to spend 5 minutes on asking for commitments to engage. I really appreciate everybody who did, and those of you who just didn't have the capacity, because I respect the fact you're showing up in the middle of your workday, listening and learning and taking notes, which I would always encourage you to do. For that, you know, we are real estate investing made easy, and our goal is to make real estate investing as easy as possible, as simple as possible, to provide you with actionable steps to grow and scale your real estate investing business. So with that, I'll be on bright and early tomorrow, and I will be excited to speak to you and engage with you, where together we're going to make real estate investing easy. You guys take care, and we'll see you tomorrow bright and early. Appreciate every single one of you.